Miller here. Well, it looks like we have a full house, and it is the time to start tonight's meeting. With this call to order, we have approval of the agenda.
Excuse me, Chair Grossman.
Yes.
May we add roll call to the agenda, please?
Yeah, we probably should do that.
Thank you.
Notice we left that off. Okay, roll call, please. Paula.
Diana Bailey. You're muted, but I see you.
Present.
Scott Baker.
Present.
Stacy Coburn.
Present.
John Frederick.
Here.
Gary Grossman.
Yo.
Steve Kramer is not with us. Darcy Long Curtis.
Present.
Linda Miller.
Here.
Thank you. And Tim McLaughlin.
Last but not least, I'm here. Steve Kramer just logged on.
Yes, Commissioner Kramer just logged on. So, hail, the game's all here. Once again, we'll go to approval of the agenda. That's been mailed out to you. I know Scott has a report for us, but I think that can be done under board member comments or questions, I think, unless you wanted that as an item, Scott.
I think it would be better as an item, so it can be more accurately reflected in the minutes. And I also have some visual aids we're going to try.
Wahoo, cartoons.
Yeah.
Okay, any objection to adding the update on Mill Creek to our agenda as a discussion item?
No objection.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted with the addition of the Mill Creek update.
Do I have a second?
You bet. Second, right here.
10 seconds. All those in favor signify by some form of thumbs up.
Aye.
Thank
And-
you.
And Linda's an aye. We also have the approval of the minutes up next. The minutes have been submitted. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes or a motion to approve?
Miller moved to approve the minutes as presented.
Baker seconds.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor signify by the thumbs up.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed, same sign, I guess, but it passes. We have one action item, which is a revisitation of the settling of the Granada Theater Disposition and Development Agreement and the satisfaction of terms. Several things, well, a couple of things have happened anyway since our meeting last month, or some of it slightly before that. One was two of our agency members were unclear on what we were voting for. And so that requires a revisitation. And as you've noted, if you've done your reading, there's certainly been a concern on the part of Chuck and Deborah at the Granada that there's been some inconsistencies to our approach of having them submit financial information. And so in an attempt to at least get us to a point of being able to confirm that everything in the DDA had been done, I asked Steve to arrange a walkthrough, which we did last week with Chuck and Deborah, Scott Baker, myself, Don Hurt, and Jim Schweinoff from the city. Steve was on vacation, so Don and Steve joined us for that. So or Dawn's with us this evening, so she can speak to the process of the walkthrough, what we saw. We discussed expenses. I think frankly, there's a concern on the part of Chuck and Deborah that after the first reporting period, we didn't ask for receipts in the second or third project updates. And so those financial records are not really probably organized in a way that they can easily provide those for us. And there is a provision in the DDA that says they don't have to spend all the money that's outlined in the DDA. Chuck has also, and Deborah have provided, I think, some added financial information that you guys have received as well as some examples of the documented money that's been spent. So I just want to open a discussion and opportunity to discuss the walkthrough. Do we continue to press forward for receipts if we feel that there's been good substantial compliance with the DDA? I did ask Chuck and he submitted a note. I also asked him about things that they spent money on that weren't outlined in the DDA, and those are some significant expenditures, excuse me. So with that, I'll open it up for discussion. Darcy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that all I was doing when I talked about having that motion made and passed was some kind of staff confirmation that the DDA had been completed satisfactorily. And so I think maybe we got too detailed or too hung up in it. I think originally when I heard receipts, I thought maybe that would be easy or whatever, but I'm fine with a walkthrough unless there's something that couldn't be verified just by looking. I'm just asking for staff due diligence because, like I said, I think that the Urban Renewal Agency has had a bad reputation over the last few years, and we did give them a really good deal on the building under the condition that they do certain things. So it's just about checking the box. It's not about this particular project, and we need to be doing it on every project from here on out.
Thank you, Darcy. Mayor, could I ask you to mute your microphone, please? Thank you. Stacy.
I would just like to add, I think I was the person that made the motion. It was made on the fly, fully with the intention of a general, did they meet all of the requirements? Did somebody visually walk through and see that the vast majority of everything on the list was completed? Never was my intention that, whether we've done it before or not, we should be doing it, in my estimation, and going forward. But I was not meant to check for every single, small dollar amount, but generally, did they meet the expectations that we had, so that if we were asked, that we followed through and ensured that everything was taken care of. So
Maybe this would be a good point, Dawn, if you might just address the walkthrough a little bit and what you saw, and you were taking notes and checking against the DDA.
Yes, so thank you, Chair Grossman. Hopefully I'm able to stay on here. I'm having some internet problems. I did actually take the Exhibit D that was provided to all of the Urban Renewal Agency members and kind of went down the list while we were at the walkthrough, and a couple of the notes that Jim Schweinoff and myself had compiled, specifically dealing with the exterior, which was the item number 1. The marquee is still in need of some minor work. There was a general conversation about the marquee and its status. There's a couple of broken neon tubes, and that Chuck would actually be in contact with David Benko, the owner of the National Sign Museum, and they would actually be working on some repairs. With regards to the cafe, the outside awning will be purchased or installed at the same time that they're working on the HVAC system. Chuck explained that Joanna Russ Cole, who are some local sign / contractors in our area, will be working on this project. The lobby, it appears that all the work has been completed. With regards to the exits, the has actually not been installed, will be installed at a later date with the grant money. Mr. provided us some information regarding limitations on the numbers of
Excuse me,
people
Dawn.
that could actually be in the building
Dawn,
to
you're
meet the fire safety standards.
Dawn, you're breaking up.
Are you guys hearing me?
Can you back up a little bit?
No, we lost her.
I'm sorry. I'm back. So did I make it through the exits, the fire exits?
Going to be installed with the grants. So
Okay.
you're moving forward with that.
Perfect. So with regards to the roof, the membrane still looks good according to Chuck as well as Brown Roofing. In the basement, Jim Schweinoff actually asked about the cleaning of the basement, and they stated that it was done about 3 years ago. And Jim actually believed it wouldn't be a big issue because the current swamp cooler and gas heaters will actually be removed once that HVAC system is installed. Regarding the theater proper, it appears to all be completed. They purchased new curtains that will be installed soon, so he did share those with us. The mechanical, I mentioned it before, HVAC will be completed at a later date. And then with regards to production, Chuck provided us the details and demonstrated the lights, the video, and the sound. And that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions of me or Gary or Scott?
yes, then you were satisfied that the requirements to complete the DDA were met.
From what I gave you, yes. I mean, I'm a little bit at a disadvantage because I'm not aware completely of the entire project other than the list here. So, I mean,
Right.
Gary and Scott may be better to answer that question.
I found that there was substantial compliance with everything in the DDA. The cleaning of the basement, I think probably when it was cleaned, it had to do with a bunch of junk in it, and the junk's out, but there's a lot of mechanical stuff that does need to be removed, but it's not usable space. It's very difficult to get down in that basement. I wouldn't want to be the one down there working on any of that. So what I saw, I was quite impressed with. Scott, maybe your impressions?
I don't have anything to add. You guys summed it up well.
Then I'll quote from the agenda staff report. Included with the DDA were 2 exhibits that set forth an installment payment schedule, annual progress reports, and lists of upgrades to the property. And they also said that the final report, along with the staff recommendations, that the term of the DDA had been satisfied and finalized to sale transaction on the property. So, and having reviewed the project report by Chuck Gomez, I've concluded that the terms of the agreement has been met. And I just go ahead and move to approve conditions surrounding the DDA to satisfy the terms of the agreement.
I'll second that.
I've got a motion. Pardon?
So Miller here.
Yes.
I took a personal tour with Mr. Gomez yesterday, and I have been in that building numerous times to the events that have been at the Granada, and I believe we need to go ahead and finalize this DDA.
And I have walked through the building several times and worked with Mr. Gomez and he has given me direct information. I am satisfied that the terms have been met.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, Darcy.
So I have no problem with the project. I think that he's done a great job, but I heard Don say 3 things, including fire doors that weren't yet complete. And whatever we do tonight is setting a precedent for future DDA's releases. We've been hard on some other applicants in the past and made them stick to the letter of the DDA. And so I don't know if we are requiring people to meet all the conditions of the DDA, which is a legal document, or if we're asking, or if we're saying that they can just substantially meet them, and that's subjective.
Well, I would believe that they would be voiding their own agreement for the grant if they don't proceed with the fire exits. That
Well,
money.
it's about the title of the building and taking possession of the building, and the condition of getting such a great deal is that all of those things were done. And I'm not the one that wrote that up. I'm just saying my job as a board member is to enforce this legal document and whether or not I feel that it's been met.
I don't recall any other urban renewal project going through this type of scrutiny.
Sunshine Mill did. They had to have an audit, and they also, we didn't let them have title even when they were trying to refinance their property to get it out from under us.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, we're comparing apples to oranges now, Miss Long Curtis. So
Well, he
I
asked
think
if
that,
anybody had to do the same thing, and I answered that.
I think what we've done is that we need to do a better job with our DDAs as we move forward in the future, and acknowledge that we've made some missteps, and that we need to do a better job conducting business in the future. And this is one of those reasons why, as we move forward with new projects, we need to have that conversation. Does this urban agency need to exist with special districts, or does it need to be under the city control where it ought to be? Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, Scott?
Well, I think Mr. Kramer said it better than I was going to, which was simply that mistakes of the past don't justify mistakes in the present or future. You know, we may not have given scrutiny to other urban renewal projects. We have a new board, and we have, you know, a fiduciary responsibility to serve as the board of the agency. That said, having toured the building, reviewed all the documents, I understand that there's significant ambiguity in that, in some of the wording in that, and I feel comfortable and intend to vote for this motion because I think it was a learning experience, and I also believe that the city of the Dalles got a great result out of it, and so that's my 2 cents.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
for the record, the fire doors are legal and have been inspected by the fire marshal. Otherwise, they couldn't be having events in that building.
Yep, it's doing whatever the final upgrades are that need to be done. Tim, you had something you wanted to say?
No.
Oh, I did. I appreciate that clarification, John, because I was going to ask for Dawn to read her section back again because I was unaware of the fire issue.
Okay, any further discussion? Paula? Paula, you're not on, you're muted. You're still muted.
Working on it. I couldn't tell who seconded the motion.
That was me.
That was John Frederick.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by a thumbs up. Opposed?
Miller, aye.
And Kramer's on. Oh, there you go. Okay, opposed, same sign. Darcy opposes. Did you oppose, Diana? I still had a thumb up.
No, it's off now. I agree.
Okay, so we add 1 dissent, the motion carries. Will carry out the rest of the provision of the DDA in providing the deed to the Granada to the Gomez's. And thank you for the wonderful job you've done with that building. It was one of the first buildings I visited and fell in love with in the Dalles 19 years ago. And it's wonderful to see it preserved as it is. So with that, we move on to discussion items. I think maybe we should start with the Mill Creek update, because I think it's good news.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I'm happy to share this with you, and I'm gonna try and show a video. I've had some mixed success. Don might not get it, but if you've got a strong interconnection, you certainly will. So this is a project that's been on the urban renewal project list, I believe, since its inception in 1990, the Mill Creek Greenway. And originally conceived as one large project. I came to this agency and suggested that we break it up into manageable chunks. This chunk that I'm going to present tonight is what we call segment 2. Segment 1 would be from the Riverfront Trail to West 2nd. Segment 2 takes us from West 2nd to West 6th Street. We started with this section because it has strong standalone value, being in the riparian area of Mill Creek. It's just a beautiful section. Additionally, it's all under park district ownership, which just makes the project easier and that we don't have to go get easements and other things. And also, it was going to be the most expensive and challenging section to construct. And so I thought that if we could start with that section, get it done, it would lend a lot of momentum to this project and eventually bring this Mill Creek dream to fruition. And so I'm going to try and share my screen here and walk you through a couple of slides. And so what you're looking at here is West 6th and the Serpentine trail that leads from West 6th to the Mill Creek Greenway. And so that snakes along that way so that the entire trail is ADA accessible. Raise your hand. Can everybody see my screen and see that okay? Okay, great. And so I'm just going to kind of flip through here if I can, if it's going to let me. This is going from 2nd Street. This is where it connects to the existing bridge. Oops. This is where that serpentine path connects with the Mill Creek Trail. You can see here that it has, because of the strong cliff there, that we actually do a bridge and a kind of pier construction. It has a little bump out seating area. It goes from trail to portions where it's boardwalk. All right, and I'm going to try now to show you a video. So, no, it's not going to work. Sorry, that didn't work that way. Let me have a little technical difficulty here. Let me try something else. So was everybody able to see those slides? Just so, because I can't see you when you guys are, okay, when I'm doing this, you're dark to me. Would you guys, so we put together, so we're going to go out, this is a spendy project. And to sell a spendy project, sometimes you got to put a little extra into the presentation value. If it's okay, I'm going to just try and show you like a 2-minute jazzy video that we're going to use as for a grant presentation material. But I think it's kind of fun, and I'm going to give it a shot. Let's see. Oh. Screen. Try this. Good.
not working, Scott.
Okay. All right, well. What I'll do is, as we go on through the meeting, I'm gonna I'll put in the chat bar a link to we posted it on YouTube, and it works reliably with that link. And so if you want to go back and see it, you can. Now, we have, of course, all the engineering documents. We have cut sheets for the trail sections and the bridge sections and the pier supports. Not super exciting. I think the pictures tell the story well enough, but I'm happy to answer any questions about the project now.
Any questions? I wish we could have got. Go ahead.
Miller has a question.
Yes.
Okay.
Scott, when you say spendy, kind of give us a frame.
Yeah. So before value engineering, this project is cost estimated at $2.5 million.
Okay.
It's the grant that we feel, or I've identified as being at most eligible, is a brand new grant program that is funded with $15 bicycle taxes. The sale of every bicycle in Oregon is $15 is collected to build bike and pedestrian trails. They are opening it up for projects this fall, and we'll take a look at it. And if it looks like a great fit, I'll likely work with the urban renewal staff to come back to this agency with a request to submit for that proposal. That sounds like a big number. It is the grant only requires a 10% match. And so I believe it is doable. And I think it would be an awesome addition to our town.
With the match, the grant would cover the expense, Scott?
Say that again, Gary?
With the grant, or with the match, the grant will cover that whole project?
Yeah, the grant is actually divided into two different funding streams, but one of them is federal, where the match is kind of like our First Street project. I think it's like 10.1%. So we'll be looking at a $250,000 project, but we would get a lot way closer to getting this project done. If we can get this segment done, I think we're most of the way there. And I believe it just has value connecting Second to Sixth and as a destination. So
Absolutely, great lifestyle project. Yeah. Any other comments or questions for Scott? If not, the other thing we had on our agenda for
I think
tonight.
Rich Mays has a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Rich.
Oh.
Scott, maybe I missed this. How far of a distance from point A to the end, approximately, is it of what you showed?
Yeah, it's it's not a mile. It's significantly less than that, and I can pull up the engineering details, but I don't have that offhand.
Okay, maybe we can get it to me later. Thank you.
Okay, the other item that we had on the agenda for tonight was discussion of future agency activities, plans, and programs. As everyone's aware, Steve will be riding off into the sunset here shortly, and we will be looking for a new staff person for urban renewal. But this is an opportunity for the agency board members to have a little time for discussion in some things that are visions. We have some of those near visions in our 2021 plan and budget. But going on beyond this is a new agency and new opportunity to make new decisions about the future. So what kind of things do you think the agency should be, which direction should the agency be headed in? No guesses, huh?
I guess that
Yes,
answers your
John?
question.
John?
We need to get out of the business of buying buildings and rehabbing them.
Other thoughts that, directions that the agency ought to be looking at that we haven't got identified in the plan? Scott?
Just to address Mr. Frederick's comment there, if the Tocola project had come to fruition, I think that would have been a fantastic win for the city. So I think that it's not necessarily buying the buildings, that we don't want to be in the business of buying buildings and rehabbing them. But maybe we just need to write our agreement so that the condition of the purchase of that building by urban renewal is on the project being completed. Or, and so, what we've done is we've gotten ourselves into a pickle a couple times by purchasing buildings and then the projects haven't happened. But I think that there's ways that we can craft these agreements that protect us from that happening and still create opportunities where we can get some real return on investment for our agency and raise the value of downtown. So, if the Tocola project had failed, but the agreement of our contribution was contingent upon it going forward, we would be no worse for wear. And if it had happened, we'd have a multi-million-dollar building and some housing downtown. So I don't know that I want to just throw the baby out with bathwater, because I think that these kinds of projects can be really beneficial for our community. Okay.
Miller has something to say.
Okay.
We don't know exactly what the conditions of the city of the Dalles are going to be after this pandemic has kind of gone away. So it's hard to make decisions when you don't know what the situation is.
Yep, that's very much agreed, Linda. I mean, we have really no idea what changes could happen to any community coming out of this current time. We have some good short-term plans. We've talked infrastructure. We're in support of the downtown undergrounding of utilities. That's on our order of work. The potential for doing a plaza at Federal Street is in front of us this next year. So it's not that we're without things to do in the short run. And certainly where we are needed as an urban renewal district can even be something of discussion. Scott?
So I think Linda makes a great point. I've said it in meetings before that, and it even came up tonight about just the view of urban renewal as an agency in our community and talking about the need for a win. And yeah, with COVID, things are uncertain. However, we are partway through with the project now, and we've been making steady progress. And what I'm talking about is First Street. And there's been kind of some discussion about the city's role in this and the agency's role in this, and that was a little bit easier to talk about when they were a little bit more closely aligned. But, I think that it would be a benefit to this agency to really focus on that project and kind of get on the same page about it. If we are pot committed and if we are going forward, I think then it would be a great project for us to lend a little bit more of our attention and energy towards, kind of really get together. I've seen the cut sheets of curb cutouts and things, but I don't have an overall, kind of like the video I tried to show you tonight or the photos, an overall just vision of what this project is. It's changed so many times that I think that if we are going to, we kind of either need a fish and cut bait. We're either going to go for it, make it an agenda item on every meeting, push for updates, and really try and drive this project forward and get a win of getting it done, getting it off the books. It's been on there for, I don't know, I'm saying 10 years, but I don't know the exact number. but it's been on this project list for a long time. Get it done, or accept that we're not going to do it, that the project doesn't have value anymore, take the loss that we have, pay the engineering money back, and focus our energy elsewhere. The project staff has been moving the project forward, but I think that there's more that we can do to sell the project to the community or just help make it a priority so that it's always on the front burner.
Where would you see our first step in that, Scott?
Narrowing down this project goals, you know, and really having a meeting where we see, I guess it's harder now, but I would like to see poster size visuals of what we're actually getting for our money, have a real understanding of how much we've spent, where we're going, what the project looks like today, and have a real discussion. Is that still the project we want? If our ENA or DDA with the Dallas Fitness Hub fails, you know, is there an opportunity to raise that building and expand this project to expand the Washington Street as part of the First Street project? I think that we have an opportunity here. We saw some pretty scary pictures of that building. I don't know where we stand with that ENA, but if it turns out that that project's not going forward, I think as an agency, we should at least have the conversation about bringing that building down and either making it a park or making it buildable dirt or something. And I know I'm kind of mixing some two things, but that First Street project, because it has changed so much, has the opportunity to encompass this Washington Square idea, the downtown park. I mean, I joked about a parking garage with a park on top, or a park below, nice shady park with parking on top, or something like that. But I think that this project, it's a large project, and I think it just deserves a little bit more conversation and attention than we've been giving. And that's one that we've so much committed in now, that the uncertainty of the future with COVID doesn't really actually affect that, because it's on a timeline, whether we like it or not, it's happening.
Miller here. Scott, Washington Street project hasn't been part of urban renewal for several years, since the Granada Block project did not go forward. Now the Federal Street in front of the VSO office, that has been talked about as a park project or a plaza.
I got my streets mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You're thinking of the new Christie Minstrels playing a song a bazillion years ago, Scott.
Yeah.
Washington Square. Yeah, that tells my age.
Yeah, but I was flipping through First Street, and Washington Street thing is in there a couple times, so. Yeah.
Easy to do. Other comments, Darcy?
Yeah, so I would say at this point, the First Street streetscape is, for me, my number one project that I'm concerned about. I think it does a lot of things both for businesses and potential residential downtown. It just makes downtown more welcoming. But I also would like us to focus more on projects that increase the value of the property downtown, because the agency is going to sunset. And when that happens, I would like to see Parks and Rec and the fire district and everyone who gave up their tax dollars that could have been used for their projects to have an increased tax base in order to make up a little bit for that and catch up on some projects that they had to forego in order to make urban renewal happen.
Good thinking. Other thoughts? Well, I would suggest that we schedule some form of work meeting, could be done at a board meeting, to review the First Street project and make that the primary. Most of us aren't going as many places as we used to in August. We do have an August meeting scheduled. There is a request to extend the ENA, so that would be timely discussion along with the First Street discussion if you wanted to hold that as being the primary focus of our August meeting. Does that sound agreeable to everybody?
My only question to that, Gary, is should we not also just look at all the uncompleted projects and prioritize where we want to go as a group, narrow down where we really want to come in at? And I'm with Linda. I don't know where we're going, but we have enough on our plate that we haven't completed yet. So why would we worry about adding more when we don't know it's very uncertain?
Right.
So let's accomplish what we can, focus in on those things that we haven't completed, and see if we can get some work done and just make it a great place. That's where I'm at.
It would be good, Steve and Paula, I think, to, I end up with so many dead trees in various offices right now. Finding our entire list, project list, has been a little tough for me today, but that would be valuable information if agency members don't have that. There is also our goals and projects that are the ones that are for this year that we can review at the same time. Some of those more distant ones, yeah, we may be able to cut them loose, or it may just be something that's just not inside our view. I think the First Street project, we've tried to preserve the money to be able to do it. It does tie in somewhat with these other areas that we're looking at working with, and I think that's a good primary focus. So one, we could do a review of our overall list of projects and make some decisions there, and maybe at least begin some discussion or review at least on First Street. I could use an update on everything. My problem is I've been attached to it for too long and things keep changing, and so I could really use a refresher course. So does that sound valuable?
Miller agrees.
Okay, I think I got general agreement on that. I think part of that, whether it's upfront or a little further down the line, would be your concern, Steve, that you've been wanting to address, but you also have a comment, I think.
Yeah, I'll yield to Scott. He had his hand up first.
Okay, Scott, then Steve.
Well, I wanted to kind of bounce that off of staff, you know, as far as an August meeting, or if we knew that, you know, KPFF had a deliverable due at a certain date or time, that it might be better to have a little bit farther along on the engineering work, or if it was nearing completion, you know, that might, if we were getting close to a deliverable, we might want to wait and meet until we had that deliverable in hand. And I don't know our current status with them and where they're at.
Steve Harris, do you have an answer for that before we get to Steve Kramer?
Currently, we are at the 75% plan review stage. The city has, we've accomplished our 75%. We're now waiting on ODOT to review the plans, and they will have their review to us, I think by mid-August is what they've committed. They're a little behind schedule, so that's where we are. And after the 75, then we go to the 90, 95%. And as I previously informed the board, that we would be ready to come back to the board in the fall with the completion of the plans and then authorization to go to bid, which with the ODOT process will take a few months. So I don't see that happening until after the first of the year. So you're probably still maybe 6 to 8 months out before project would be ready to go to bid.
How do you feel that hits the timing, Scott?
You know, no, that's fine. You know, I think that we have some new members, and we have the project's just changed a lot. So, you know, I guess I'm kind of looking for just that elevator speech of this is what's going on with urban renewal. Hey, this is our one major accomplishment. This is what we're working on next, you know, and just trying to narrow our focus perhaps, but just be effective and get a win. And so I, you know, personally, I would enjoy not having an August meeting, but you know, I don't know that there's any sense of urgency. This project is there's been nothing urgent about this project. I don't think so. It's
Well, and the only thing we do have on an August agenda would be the extension of the ENA with the Gorge Fitness Hub. There wouldn't be any decision made to the contrary to that if we reviewed that in September, unless that's problematic. Steve Harris again. I just like to see you take your mask off.
I'm sorry, Chair, I didn't quite follow you. What were you asking for as being problematic?
We have the request for the extension of the ENA. The agency wouldn't be taking any action in August if we didn't meet. So is there any issue with putting that on the September agenda?
I don't believe so. I can check with the city attorney if they can be extended administratively for another 30 days to allow for your September meeting. I can check. Get back to you on that one.
Yeah, if you would please, Steve, because there's not a need to get everybody together looking at each other if that's all we're going to be addressing. So with that, is anybody going to be upset if we don't meet in August? Okay.
Not Miller.
Not Miller. Okay, well, we'll try to see if we can get through August and then maybe do a revisit in the fall to update everybody on the First Street project moving forward. Steve Kramer, you had something a while ago.
Thank you, Chair Grossman. The elephant in the room, as far as I'm concerned, is the governance of this agency. We have 3 council members on this board, and we have the mayor sitting in. We have 4 of the 6 presiding members of the city council participating in this. And this list is an inherited list that we're all trying to save face on. And so my question has been for a couple of years now, basically my fault, falling on deaf ears. I haven't pushed this hard enough, but is this the right governance for this organization? And I want us to consider that as we move forward with the consideration of projects. I believe that this belongs with the city council and not with special districts. And so if it's the order of the group that I'm the lone wolf on this, I will retract all, and I will move forward with the group and move for positive and move on. So thank you, Chair Grossman.
Thanks, Steve. Diana?
I would just, if you feel comfortable, Steve, if you would give me the why. I just don't understand. I have not, participated in just 2 meetings here. And if you could give a little bit of more clarification of why you feel this needs to fall under the city, that would be great, if you're comfortable.
Yeah, I think we have a fine partnership with the city, but for projects that we need infrastructure partnership with, this and or that, we have to bring a third party in. I know that we deal with that on a regular basis, but I just feel that it would be easier if the city council were making these decisions. It would just take one less step out of the process and make things a lot easier for us to move forward with our projects.
Okay, but then how would you address the oversight of the tax dollars that are being spent in the urban district versus in my fire district per se. How would you justify that being a release of?
Like we did before with an advisory group. And I think that's a checks and balance for government. Right now, you know, we as special districts have total control over all of this, which I think is a little bit backwards. And I think that because the city council is ultimately responsible for this, how are the 9 of us responsible individually as districts? So there's some questions that need to be answered, and those are good questions. And Diana, I'm glad you brought them up. And those are pieces that we need to discuss as we move forward.
Well, I appreciate that because I was part of the previous advisory. And so this has evolved since my activity then. And so I just need to know the history of why that happened and what the feelings were. And I know at times I felt like I did not have input as an advisor, where I think now it might have that, but I don't know. I haven't been active on this side yet, right? So I just would like to kind of see, but I appreciate you being open and willing to make those comments so we can discuss them. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's why this is a particular thinking point for the various agencies, because as I think Diana and I have certainly the longest history on this, involved in URA here, and the advisory committee was not a perfect world because the city council changed what the advisory committee did quite often, and the agencies didn't feel that they got a voice. So the structure that exists now is that attempt for a broader voice in the decision making. Maybe it's some loss to some connection with the city and how things would be structured. We also have, at any point, our own choice to make in terms of the management of the Urban Renewal Agency as far as staff is concerned. So any of these things can be a discussion point, and I think are, you know, something valuable to think through whether this has been a good experience, a mixed experience, and I have frankly enjoyed coming back on the agency board because there are more decisions made, and I think we have a very strong decision-making body in this agency board. But I understand Steve's frustration because he'd probably be number 3 in length of time involved with and time with the port and other things that have been involved. So
Yeah, thank you, Chair Grossman, for that. But if we're going to have representation for all, then we've got 3 city council members sitting, and we've only have 1 from the fire district. I think there's a little lopsided play to go there. So those are the pieces that I think that we need to look at and check it out. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm wasting our time. But if we're going to do representation, then we need representation. So thank you.
there you go.
Miller has a comment to make.
Yes, Linda.
So I was on that advisory committee for the city, and I believe there were
sorry. I didn't see your face, so I left you out.
So, oh, that's okay. I don't need my face to be shown, just my voice. So I believe there were 2 of us from city council that were on that advisory committee, and more times than not, when the advisory committee made a recommendation to city council, it was negated. And that's when I was the one that actually suggested that we have this urban renewal board, because there was more skin in the game for those districts that were part of their tax dollars were part of urban renewal. And So we can change the number from the city on the board. Well, that was just part of how it was set up. Doesn't mean it can't be changed. But I think the board that we have now, the districts are being heard and have a voice and a vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Appreciate that. So if we kind of a little out of order, although there may be other board members' comments later. Steve, we're at the point of staff comments.
Mr. Chair, it was just in regards to the meeting on the August 18th, and I'll just follow up again with the city attorney regarding the extension of the E&A to the Tony's building.
Okay, we can all use a day off. Do we have any other staff comments to be made this evening or questions? Seeing none, we'll call this rascal adjourned 4 minutes short of an hour. So thank you all for being here, for your participation. Thank you, Steve, for, if we don't see you in August, we want to thank you for your dedicated service to your time with the city, and all the best in retirement. Scott?
If you missed it, I put the link to the YouTube video in the chat box. So before you log out, if you want to cut that and paste it into your browser, it's got catchy music. Get ready to dance.
Looking forward to it. Okay, you folks stay safe and well. Have a good evening. This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.